Welcome back, guys. My name is Sobi. Today I wanted to share a small idea that I had for a past project for the authorizations. Back then I didn't use Spatie's package, but I used my own logic for this, and today I will implement the same middleware, in fact, with Spatie's package. And actually every action that the user will make will have to be authorized. In this case, the middleware checks if the method's name or the route's name is actually a permission, and if the user which is doing that action has the permission to do that particular action. So I will show this to you, and I hope this will be helpful. Of course, this can be used with caches and different kind of caching methods. So it won't use the database for querying the user's accesses or permissions, but Spatie have done this with cache, and this works well. Of course, if you have Redis or different kind of memcached or other services, you can implement those and your logic to that, and your application will not query the database all the time. So let's get started and see how this can be done. It will be a small tutorial regarding the authorizations based on each of the routes. So even if it's a single page application or a basic monolith application, every action will be authorized. So every API call, everything has to be authorized. So let's get started and see how this is built up. Okay, so here is the project that we have worked on. As you remember, categories, users, permissions, roles. And for example, I'm at the moment auth service provider. I have the super admin and I can do anything, right? So let's comment this out. And as you can see, I've implemented this middleware that it says that, sorry, you don't have access to the requested page. And I give you the route's name, which it's defined in the web in this case. Dashboard, it's called admin permissions index, admin permissions and index. You cannot see the index because we have this resource controller. But if we will open this up, 1 second, to enter the Docker, you can see the route there. 1 second, let me show it to you. PHP artisan, how it's called, admin permissions, route list. Let's filter it out by name, equals admin permissions index. So this is the permission which is checking it. So right now I don't have this permission. Let's create this. Okay, let's hide this for a bit. Actually, I will create the permission now manually, but later on we can create them automatically if the permission is missing. We will check it if it exists or not. So for now I am creating this permission manually. Okay, and my username is Sobi. Let's assign it to. Okay, let's go down and update it. So now I'm gonna take out this gate again and refresh the page. Permissions index. So this is working as expected. But if I want to go to view a particular permission, now it will say that the admin permission show is missing from our permission list from my user. So as you can see, each of these routes is protected. Even if I want to add a new one, I cannot do that, right? Okay, so let's take this out and create a new show, new create. Okay, and I will do a small permission.show, update it. Let's just do a small permission resource controller, and the update and the create method. Let's do this lower. So we will do everything by lowercase, even if we write it in the uppercase. and the store. Okay, to lower. So in that case, it won't matter if we do the permission with uppercase or lowercase. Okay, so we have show, create, and index. But if we look at the routes, we will see that we have multiple routes. So we have to add those as well into the permissions list. So for this, we need to go to open the terminal to see our permissions. I have index, store, create. And in the front end, we had show, create, index. But we're missing the admin permissions store. Okay? So we have 4 permissions for this. But now we can do this and assign as a role. Okay? We can add new. We can add this as manage permissions. So this role will be able to manage all the permissions. We have permission. Okay, grant new role. And now we have the manage permissions, which will be my user. Okay, excellent. So we have everything. We can activate this back, the gate. Let's add also, let's delete this middleware here. Okay, right. Permissions, users don't have access, roles don't have access, but in the permissions, oh, sorry, it's permissions. It's permissions. I've made a typo here. Okay, let's create this. Permissions, update it. And permissions, sorry, update. Okay, so now it will work. Roles, it's not working. Permissions, it's working. And I can do everything. But I cannot delete it. I don't have the access for that because I didn't create it. So how about we should do something that checks if the permission is created or not. And if the permission is not created in the database, let's create it. Okay? So let's see Spatie what does tell us about this. Spatie permission. Let's see how can we create the permissions. Direct usage. Create. Okay. Sync. Remove. Okay. Well, in here, in the permission, sorry, check permission. So what have I done? Okay. I've made a middleware firstly, and it's the handle method, which we get the user, the authenticated user. If the user is null, we redirect it to the home page because I'm not logged in that case. But if the user has the role super admin, we have permission to every route, which is the same as the gate. Then otherwise we will check if the user can access this route. Let's check this. Let's define this in another way. If user get name, because that returns a boolean, has permission set to true. We can make these two if statements in one, but I like to separate the logic. Okay. Okay, has permission, we will set it to false. And if the user can access that route, it has permission, and we will return the next request. Otherwise, if none of these if statements will validate, then we will abort the code and we will give a 403 error which with this message, and also we will return this message just for knowing which route name we cannot access. I'm not able, forbidden. Okay, it's better to use this than a code. Okay, response. why this is shouting to me. It's okay. Good. So let's validate this and everything should work. Okay. User does not have the right permission. Good. So how can we do this? First of all, we could do, for example, a service provider. Okay. Let's not service provider. I'm sorry. I like to use with small services. HTTP. I don't have a services folder here, but let's create one. Let's call it check permission service, and it will be in the services. Okay. And we will public function. Let's do it by the constructor only. Constructor. Okay. So permission, we will use our extended model because, as you remembered from the remembered from the last video, we've extended Spatie's model to our new model because we've added 1 or 2 functionalities, and also we deleted that column in the database. So back to the code, app model where name equals the name. Okay. First or create, and it will accept a parameter as name, and it will be considered lower name. Name. Okay. Okay. So we will create this. So this way, create the permission if it does not exist. Also, we can put this in the cache, for example. Just I'm thinking about it. Permission. Let's put this in a cache. Cache. Remember, why it's not seeing it? Cache remember. I think I have to give remember forever. I will give him a name, permissions, permission, return ID. And we will use the static function, use name, permission, permission ID. Remember, why it's not seeing this? Remember forever. Correct, it's the same. Oh, okay, I had the typo. I don't like this method because we will need to make an array of permissions. Okay, let's do this. Cache remember forever permissions. So we have to create an array with the permissions. So we cannot do everything in a small different permission. So we will create permissions cache. Okay. Function. And we will use return an array. Okay. Permissions. If cache has permissions, then cache get permissions. Okay. And if name or one second, because I'm thinking also how to do this. If permissions is set permissions permission ID not what is said. Permissions. Okay. And the cache. Remember forever. Permissions. And the value will be permissions. I don't like this. I will simplify it a bit because I'm not checking the query for the database at the moment, but I will check it later on. So let's see if this works. For example, I take out this gate, and let's go to the routes, the permissions, and users categories, roles. And also I have to check this out in the check permissions and comment this row. Okay, so I don't have admin roles index. Let's see if it created it in the database. Oh, sorry, it's a big mistake. I've made the service, but I didn't implement it anywhere. So this was the issue. I've made the check permission service, but I didn't implement it in the check permissions middleware. So sorry for that. So, okay, let's implement this here. Permission. Okay, and let's see now. I've accepting a parameter, so let's use this as a request route. Set it to lower. Okay, and the route name here as the parameter. So we can do service. Let's see what parameter do I have to put here. Name. Okay, name, it will be the route name. Okay. So I have the cache permissions. Let's go further. The permissions cache, it exists and this has zero entries. So now I have the permission as the model. So from this we'll get the ID, permission ID. Sorry. So we'll get 11. Add it to the permissions array. As you can see, we have now one element, and now remember forever. Okay, and we have an exception. We can see remember forever accepts a closure array given. Yes, so instead of this, we have to check, we have to change this in the service. I think we can change this. Cache permissions. Okay, so now we have a new entry in the database. In this way, we don't have to create all the authorizations manual in the database. We only need to do the assignments of these authorizations, of these permissions to roles and to users. And in this way, everything will work seamlessly and really well. Let's see how we could do this better. So we cannot, so in this case, we don't do another query in the database for each of the permissions or routes. So we have this. In this case, we could change this. Instead of permissions ID, we could put the permission name. And in this case, we can check if permission name, and if it doesn't exist, we put this query in here, and only in this way we will access it again. So we have no further queries for this route because we've checked it and the permission exists. So permission exists in the cache. Don't do another query. Okay, and also we'll put the cache here. So in this way, we won't interact with the cache for writing, and we won't interact with the database for querying if the cache is already saved to our database for this route. So thank you for watching. This was a little bit trickier because I've messed up some things, but I hope that this will help you in your further projects, because it makes your life easier regarding authorizations. So thank you and have a good day. Cheers. See you in the next one.